What is up, everybody? I am Get Flanked, back with another Operation Void Edge video on the Ubisoft channel. This is actually the second video in a series. The first one was all about the organ rework. It'll be linked in the top right hand corner of the screen right now. If you haven't seen it yet, make sure you go back and check that out once you watch this one. In this video, we're going to be going over some of the changes coming with Operation Void Edge to the game. Now, there's obviously the organ rework. There's obviously 2 new operators coming, both Yana and Oryx, but there's also a lot of nerfs and buffs to already existing operators. There are changes to the core mechanics within the game, and that's all the stuff we're going to be going over in today's video. The idea here is to allow you to not only know what all is being changed, but also how it could possibly affect your gameplay. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump right into 5 changes coming with Operation Void Edge. Okay, the first big change that you need to be aware of in Operation Void Edge is what they've actually done with the drones. And this is huge because it's going to affect every single player in the game. It doesn't matter what operators you like to play or what your playstyle is, this is going to affect you. So a couple different ways they've changed the way you interact with your drones. First of all, your drone is now going to spawn near where you select for your operator to spawn. So that's a big change and a very welcome change. Your drone will be in the vicinity of where your operator is going to spawn, so you can drone out ahead of that area. So that's a big change. The next thing is that you now have an option to stay on the drone after the prep phase has ended automatically without having to switch back to it. So within the options menu, you have 3 different options for how you can set up your drone. You have automatic, which is going to automatically switch you off of your drone at the end of the prep phase. You have semi-automatic. This will switch you off of the drone view after the prep phase ends if you're no longer watching your own drone. So if the enemy shoots your drone, or if you just switch off of your drone and are watching somebody else's, then at the end of the prep phase, you'll automatically leave the drone view and go to your operator first person view. And then you have manual, which means that no matter what, at the end of the prep phase, you're going to stay on a drone view as long as there's at least 1 drone alive on the map. Doesn't have to be yours. So 3 different options to choose from there. The way that I have mine set up is semi-automatic. That way I can choose whether or not I want to come off of my drone at the end of the prep phase. And I'm really enjoying this. This is great, especially if you're playing with a team. You can have one person stay on the drone and kind of make sure an area is clear before teammates push in, and you don't have that blind spot you used to have at the end of the prep phase. The second big change you need to know about with Operation Void Edge is that they buffed Twitch and they nerfed Twitch. I'm not sure what you want to call it, or if at the end of the day she's stronger or weaker, but nevertheless, we'll go over the changes here. The most important thing you know is that they've changed both how Twitch's gadget, the shock drone, works and her recoil on her F2. First of all, on the screen right now, you're seeing the old recoil of the F2 versus the new recoil side by side. And the way they describe it in the patch notes is that they have increased the recoil on the F2. And as I look at this, it definitely does look like the grouping of the shots on the new recoil is further apart. So I can see the change there. Pay particular attention to that first shot recoil. It definitely looks to me like the first shot recoil is significantly further apart than on the new recoil than the old recoil. And that's always important, because if you're aiming at head height and that first shot misses, then your weapon is going to be up in the air above the enemy. So first shot recoil is always really important in my opinion, and it looks like that's been significantly nerfed on the F2. Now, they've also changed how the shock drone works, and in my opinion this is a buff, but there's some people thinking this is a nerf. You decide for yourself. But it used to be with the shock drone that you would have a total of 5 charges on the shock drone. Once you used them, they were gone. Now you have a maximum of 3 charges at any given time, but they do recharge over time. Okay, so if you use all 3 of those charges in the prep phase, you go off the drone, you do something, you'll come back to it and actually have some charges that you can use again. Very similar to Echo's yokai drone. That's probably the best comparison I can give as far as how exactly it works. Now, it takes 30 seconds to recharge one of those shots, so it's not like you're going to just be able to run around and delete everything off the map in the first minute of the round. It's going to take time to recharge all 3 of those shots. I mean, if you think about it, 1.5 minutes to get the full inventory back. But at the end of the day, you do have more potential with the drone now than you did before Operation Void Edge. A couple other changes with Twitch's drone: the rate of fire in which you can get the charges out of the drone has actually been doubled. And that's important because if you're trying to get rid of a Maestro Evil Eye and you miss the first shot, you're going to be able to get a second shot off faster than you used to be able to. That's important in a lot of situations, really. So that's a buff to the drone there. And then also they've decreased the amount of damage that the drone does to enemies or teammates, I guess, for that matter, from 10 down to 1. So this isn't really a nerf in my opinion. It sounds like it, but if you were using the shock drone to damage enemies, you were probably using it wrong to begin with. The only thing I could see is like sometimes to finish off a downed opponent, it was kind of nice to use it for that, and that's not going to be nearly as effective now, but I still say at the end of the day, this shock drone is stronger now than it used to be. Okay, the third big change in Operation Void Edge is that they have nerfed Legion. Particularly, they've nerfed Legion's goo mines. So a couple different ways that they've changed how the goo mines work, both with enemies and with Legion. First of all, Legion's goo mine indicators will now only be visible to Legion if he's within 8 meters of the goo mine and in direct line of sight. It used to be that you could throw the goo mines all over the map, and no matter where they were located, you would see that indicator no matter how far you were away from it or anything. And that gave him a lot of information. When one went off, he was able to tell pretty much exactly where an enemy was based upon where that indicator disappeared from. And that's no longer going to be the case. You have to be close enough and within direct line of sight in order to see that indicator and to get that type of information from the goo mine. The second change to the goo mine is that they've removed the initial damage that a goo mine does as soon as you step on it. And they've also changed the amount of damage that a goo mine deals to an enemy each tick that is left in. So it used to be with the old goo mine before this season, if you step on it, as soon as you step on it, you get dealt 10 damage. And if you left it in, it would do 4 damage each tick that you left it in over time. Now, if you step on a goo mine, it will not do any initial damage, but it will do 6 damage each tick that it's left in. What this means for the player is, first of all, if you step on a goo mine and you're under 10 health, it will no longer instantly down you. You'll have a moment where you can pull that goo mine out without receiving any damage, okay? All the other effects of the goo mine have been unchanged as far as you get the green splatter on the screen, you're not able to sprint, you're not able to plant. All that stuff remains the same, but you have a moment where you can pull out the goo mine before receiving any damage from it. If you leave it in, however, it will do 2 more damage each tick left in. That's the important thing to remember. And again, I kind of demonstrated the gameplay ramifications there as far as it not being an instant down anymore. That's one thing, but also if you step on a goo mine in your full health, you'll now have a moment where you can kind of hold an angle and prep for somebody who may be peeking based off of the sound of you hitting that goo mine, and you don't have to pull it out instantly anymore, because it's going to take significantly longer to catch up to the amount of damage that you would have taken from the old goo mines. So a couple different ways that that's going to affect gameplay there. Really good change in my opinion. Last thing to say about the changes to the goo mine is that down but not out players will trigger goo mines but not take any damage from it. Again, it used to be that if you were down but not out and you were scooting across the floor and hit a goo mine, it would finish you off, but that's not the case anymore. You, as a down but not out player, will set it off but not take any damage. This is important to know because of frost. If you jump into a window now and you end up in a frost trap and there's a goo mine right beside it, you'll set the goo mine off but not be instantly killed, and that's a big change to the way it used to be. So a lot of changes there with the goo mine. Just make sure you're aware of how all those interactions work now. The fourth change you need to know about in Operation Void Edge is that they have nerfed Ella's SMG again. It wasn't that long ago that they actually buffed it, and what they did back then was they made it to where the first 16 bullets in a burst from Ella's SMG had less recoil than if you just held down the trigger. So that was a significant buff to Ella, and we definitely saw her pick rate go up, and according to them, they saw her stats go way up as far as her kill death ratio and her win percentage, as well as her pick rate. And because they saw it jump up so high, they've decided to actually nerf her now. So instead of getting reduced recoil for the first 16 bullets, now you will receive that reduced recoil for the first 11 bullets. So you've got to be much tighter with your bursts now with LS-SMG in order to receive that recoil bonus than what you used to, okay? But besides that, they've also increased the resettle time after burst firing. It now has a faster uptime to increase the vertical recoil, and they've slightly increased recoil plus spread. Now on the screen, you're seeing the old recoil compared to the new recoil, and it does look noticeable to me. So not only did they kind of revert that buff that they gave her last season, but they've also nerfed her in some other ways here. So overall, LS-SMG is going to be more difficult to control. This is definitely something you want to be aware of if Ela is somebody that you play a lot of. Now for the fifth thing on the list, I'm going to hit you with several of the smaller changes coming, but things you definitely still want to be aware of. The first has to do with operator loadouts. Dokkaebi lost her frag grenades. They've been replaced by stun grenades. Maverick gained frag grenades and loses his stun grenades. Nook gained frag grenades, loses her claymore. Also of note here, Yana is coming into the game with frag grenades. That's the new attacker coming this season. So at the end of the day, you're going to have a total of 2 more operators available on attack that have frag grenades available. That's kind of a big deal. The Vector 45 SMG has been buffed. It now does 23 damage up from 21. That is the SMG that both Mira and Goyo have available to them. All DMRs now do better soft destruction, so they'll be able to open barricades faster and easier. They'll be able to open hatches faster and easier as well. The way Warden's cooldown on his glasses works has been changed. Now, anytime you have at least 20% or more of his total gadget inventory, I guess you could say, left, you can use the gadget. You don't have to wait for it to fully recharge to use it again. As long as it's 20% or more, you'll be able to hit the button and use it. And last but not least, barricade debris is now going to be much more consistent. It used to be that when you would hit a barricade, a lot of times the debris wouldn't fall. It would be blocking the hole that you were trying to look out of, and it could be really frustrating. Now, due to some changes they made, when you hit a barricade, the debris should fall every single time, opening up a hole, and it'll be much more consistent. Okay, that's going to do it for the video. Hopefully you have a good understanding now of what all is changing with Operation Void Edge and how it could affect your gameplay. Don't forget to go back and watch the first video in this series. That's 5 things you need to know about the Oregon rework, and keep your eyes on this channel for more videos coming from me down the road.